All right, shalom, shalom, peace, 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 family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get started. Excuse me. Turn the camera around and get started. Get TikTok in here. All right. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect, and protect. Tonight's message, Aman. Shalom. Shabbat Shalom for some, Rayashan Shalom for others, and early Shabbat Shalom, or excuse me, early Rayashan Shalom. Tomorrow will be the new moon, so tomorrow we will be in a position to, start the new month next month for us on the Hebrew calendar, Rosh Chodesh Alaval, and so for those of you who are keeping Fridays and into Saturdays as your Shabbat. Shabbat matches both calendars will match for at least the next 4 weeks. So prayerfully, you'll be able to participate and see everything go through. I'll say this also too. Once again, we give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma. Real quick, just to make it known, you will hear the sound of the alarm clock. It is, or not the alarm clock, the fire alarm. You will hear it going off. It is because I have taken the battery out. It is an old setup, and the way that it's set up, no matter what, it continues to make noise and set up to where it's literally I can't even really take it out of the wall without an electrician coming by. So until I can afford the electrician, from time to time, when you are listening in this room for the evening sessions, you will hear the chirp. So I'll just say that up front. I'm not going to address it any further. It seems to be something, and I get it. It seems to be something that really, really frustrates and upsets persons when they listen. So just to let you know, this might not be for you. If there's going to be something that's going to cause you not to be able to pay attention, no offense taken, no offense given. Prayerfully, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to go to Malachi. We started this new series we're going to be doing during the evenings for a little while. Malachi, we did Malachi chapter 1, verses 1 through 4 yesterday. We're going to go through tonight, Malachi chapter 1, verses 5 through 9. We'll get ready to say our Bible pledge and jump right in. As a reminder for tomorrow, our schedule is as follows: 8 a.m. New York time, live session; 10 a.m. New York time, Shabbat service on the podcast; 11 a.m. New York time, Shabbat school for the babies; 12:15 p.m. New York time will be a SOC community meeting / watch party that will be on the Clapper app. 7 p.m. London time will be the meetup for those in England. Prayerfully, we'll get back on track. And let's see, sorry, 7 p.m. New York time will be the women's meeting. So prayerfully, sisters, you all will have a great time with that. We appreciate you. For tonight, let's get into this word and continue through the series. We're going to go to Malachi chapter 1, and we're going to look at tonight verses, I believe it's verses 6 through 9. I could have the wrong thing up. Prayerfully, I have it correctly on the screen for the video, but it should be verses 6 through 9. I think I said we went through verses 4 through 9 yesterday, but we actually went through verses 1 through 5 yesterday. So we're going to go through verses 6 through 9 tonight. So we'll get ready to read that and continue this dynamic series that we've already started. Praise Yahweh. Once again, if you guys have ideas down the road and different things you'd like us to discuss, feel free to let it be known. Next week, also to give you a heads up, next week we're going to do the next set of we'll do our next set of graft-in session. So graft-in, basically membership lessons. So if you'd like to retake them with us, or if there are certain ones that you missed, we'll make sure that over the next 2 to 3 weeks, you'll be able to catch up on those. I believe we're going to do them either Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays, and I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? Tuesday evenings and Thursday evenings, both at 9 p.m. New York time. We'll be doing those, so you can join us on Zoom. We'll make those happen, and thank you for being on with us tonight. So we appreciate you. We honor you. Hopefully all is well with everybody. Thank you for joining us on the different platforms, the different virtual spaces that you're on with us. We appreciate you today. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Shalom to everybody on these spaces. How you doing, Brother Alton? Brother TJ, Sister Beck, Sister Mignon, Shoe Queen. By the way, we're going once again, if you can stand to your feet and reverence Yahweh's word, we're going to Malachi chapter 1. We'll start at verse 6 together. Shalom, how you doing? Shoe Queen, Shaba, Minister Morel, Brother Darius, Sister Deborah, user 2036333, etc. Oil Goat, everybody who's on here, we appreciate you. Prayerfully, if you're watching this live, watch this later on. How is everybody? Thank you so much. Thank you for the love, the honor, the respect. We appreciate you. We respect you. We love you with the love of Yahweh Israel. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and say our Bible pledge. If you're able to stand to your feet once again, or however you're able to reverence the word of Yah, if you can put your right hand in the air or your device in the air, or if you don't, or if you can put your Bible in the air, just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword, and this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Hashem Yechavach, Aman, which in Yahweh Shem, his name is authority. Let it be done unto us. You may be seated or go back to what you were doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. Thank you once again for being on with us one more again. Tonight, we're going to, I'm sorry, I said you may be seated. Excuse me. If you're still on your feet, if you sat down, my fault. If you'd like to go ahead and stand for the reading of the word tonight, we'll read through these verses together, and then we'll go back and go through them. So we're going to read verses 6 through 9. They read as follows. It says, a son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, where is mine honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear, or my reverence, or my respect? Saith Yahweh of hosts unto you, O priests, O Levites, O pastors, O preachers, O ministers. He says, O priests that despise my name, you despise my authority. And ye say, wherein have we despised thy name? Ye offer polluted bread upon mine altar. Ye offer polluted bread that's polluted. We'll get into that in a second. And ye say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that ye say the table of Yahweh is contemptible. If ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if ye offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person? Saith Yahweh of hosts. Last verse of the night for the night, verse 9. And now I pray you, beseech Elohim, that he will be gracious unto us, that this hath been by your means. Will he regard your persons? Saith Yahweh of hosts. You may be seated if you were standing still. We've just read Malachi chapter 1, verses 6 through 9. Tonight, we're going to talk about these verses. Now, just as a reminder, last night, we made the point to show you that the whole prism of the scroll of Malachi, the whole prism that we're supposed to look through, the magnify, right? The prism you must look through. We cannot magnify who Yah is in this scroll. How you doing, babe? My wife is on the Bahama. Please check her out on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest. I also put some places where you can follow her and watch her videos and stuff. We did some duets and stuff earlier today, so I was able to put her stuff out there. So please support her in her goal to get back to 5,000 and hit 50,000 and hit 500,000, all that great stuff. Praise Yah. We speak that in a touch of degree in advance. If it be Yah's will, whatever his will is, whatever the number is, we know that 5,000 is not enough, though. All right. So, but we talked about yesterday how we cannot get what Yah has. Love you too, babe. We cannot get what Yahweh has for us. Hear me, beloved. How you doing, Sister Carla? Shabbat shalom to everybody. Right? We cannot get what Yah has for us. How you doing, fish out of water? We cannot get this scroll if we don't look through the prism that Yah says, I have loved you. And we as Israel has said, because we're so into supporting other things, we said, Yah really can't love us. He doesn't really support us. We're not really his family like that. We're not really the tree, the trunk, if you will, that everybody's supposed to be grafted into as the tree grows. And he says, well, how could you say that? Because I've loved you and hated Esau. And I say this just real quick once again, because somebody's context, because it's low-hanging fruit, it's wrong. It's not fruit that's developed, right? But nevertheless, a lot of persons just go, Esau means white persons, and Edom is where white persons live. That's not exactly what Esau is. And Esau really is almost like saying the world. We even talked about scripture, what is it, Jubilee chapter 6:9 or Jubilee chapter 9:6, whichever one it is, that says that Esau is the end of the wicked system thing, or what we call the world. But Israel is the beginning of everything else. You might not recall that, you might not remember that, right? But we went over that. Okay. So, and all these things we went over, that's the prism that starts here. Malachi, you can't talk about the rest of Malachi if we're not going to be honest about Israel being loved, is the prism that we must look through, right? Esau representing those who are allies with the kingdom of darkness, and Israel representing those who are not only allies, but are the kingdom, or in the kingdom, of heaven, right? This is the prism that everything we study in Malachi has to go through. If not, we're not being honest about it. And remember, what's the title of this? The title of the scroll is actually verse 1. Verse 1 is the title of the scroll. You think that this is called the book of Malachi, right? No, this is a scroll, and this scroll is actually called the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel, and it's written by Malachi. That's the title of it. This word is a burden because it's hard to preach to Israel who doesn't identify, right? The Arphaxad in us, right? The Arphaxad at Avra, right? That doesn't really truly identify with who we are being Shemitic. It's difficult for us to comprehend who we are. And until we get, and if you don't know, but recognize what I'm doing from the Bada Shot series, how you doing, Brother Dwayne? How you doing, Joyful Spirit? We're literally breaking down the names, right? If you look at Shem, who comes from Noah. Noah means rest. Rest begets Shem. Shem means name or authority. Authority gives birth to Arphaxad. Arphaxad, his name, his authority is what? His name means one who has problems identifying. But even though he has problems identifying with who he is, he eventually gets to a righteous place and begets a son whose name is Salah. Salah meaning to pause and think about it, also meaning to pause, think about it, and allow the word as a seed to be planted so that growth can happen, right? And as you mature, when he matures, he begets a son. This son's name is Avda, or who you call today Hebrew. And Hebrew's name means one who expands past territories. So here we are, Israel later on, right? Sons of those who go past the territory the world has for us. But unfortunately, we're stuck in our Foxside mode where we have problem identifying with the very persons who we are, who we were created to be, and who Yah forecasted us to be before the foundations of the world. And so Yah is talking to us and saying, it's difficult to give this word to you because in order to give this word, you have to accept me. And to accept me is to accept love. Is Yahweh not love? To accept Yah is to accept love. Is Yah not love? So he says, I love you and I hate, I ignore Esau. I've left Esau out there. I've left him outside of the city. Esau has to give up being Esau in order to be able to gain entrance in, because just because he is your brother by birth, you can be out of the same womb, but be two separate nations. Right? You can be out of the same womb and be two separate nations. Interestingly enough, when we see Israel and his children, you can be out of 4 different wombs and still be considered to be one nation. Right? Now, I'm not saying don't worry about your brother, your sister, that's physical. I'm not saying don't worry about your parents. I'm not saying give away your family. What I'm saying is that when it comes to the nation of Israel and when it ultimately comes to the kingdom of heaven, don't get stuck in the small, easy, low-hanging, okay, we got blood flowing. We automatically are exactly the same, or we're going to think the same. We're going to be the same nation. You can have 2 children, be twins, come out of the same womb, and yet Jacob is one nation and Esau is another. Israel is on one mountain and Esau is on another. Salah. So we can't get Malachi unless we're honest. This is the name of the scroll. The name of the scroll, as we talked about yesterday, is the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel. It is not written to Esau. It is not written to those who are not Israel. This is written to Israel, and it is a burden. It is difficult. It's going to take a lot to be able to get our people to comprehend the type of love that Yah has. And if we don't accept his love, we cannot accept him. So when you don't accept Yah, you understand. Somebody will say, how does Yah love me? And many persons ask that question. How can you say that there's a higher power? How can you say that there's a being that's above all? How can you say that love is all this stuff? I say that love doesn't exist because of this, because of that. That's the spirit of Asav or of Esau. How you doing, Jay? That's the spirit of Esau. That's not the spirit of Israel. That's the lawlessness of Esau, who wants the birthright and the blessing without following the law and wanting to do what's necessary to keep the birthright. Matter of fact, they'll give the birthright away for a pot of soup because they're tired of it. They're tired of, there'll be times where I've got to fast, or there's times where I've got to fight, or there's times that I've got to go against Nimrod. There's times that I'm going to have to do things or whatever. There's times where the clay must rise against. They're tired of, hey, when the enemy rushes against like a flood, it is the standard of Yahweh, the flag of Yah that must stand up. They get tired of it real easy and they'll give it away. But then when you are willing to take the birthright and the blessing, now all of a sudden here they are chasing after you. Not realizing that when they chase after you to continue wrestling with you, right, to continue to never to lie with you, as they continue to try and wrestle with you, and all the wrestling that they're doing, hear me, beloved, and all the wrestling that they're doing, not realizing that in this Naphtali, in this wrestling, it causes you to have a name change, that there's a name given to you that protects you, an authority that protects you. This authority for us is called Israel. And so Yah says, I love you, but you say that I don't love you. And if you can't accept my love, you can't accept me, for I am love. How can you accept my love plan, my action plan, that my Elohim plan for you? The plans that I have for you are for you to prosper and to always have great success. How can these plans be there for you when you won't accept my love? You can't accept me. You can't accept love, because my love is who I am. My actions are who I am. There is no separation between the two. And so if we're not honest about Malachi and this burden, and this is what we are burdened with, to see this scroll correctly, we will not be able to see this righteously. This also means you're going to have a tough time seeing Maccabees correctly. This also means you're going to have a tough time seeing Jubilees correctly. This also means you're going to have a tough time seeing Jasher correctly. Yeah, outside the 66 books. And I know I'm going outside of just the books that are accepted, the 14 books that are usually accepted generally, right, in those that are missing, right? But there's others too. But you're going to have a tough time with it. You're going to have a tough time with getting the rest of, wow, I'm having a moment here. Maccabees, Esdras, but that's not the other one I'm looking for, really. Forgive me, it'll come to me. But you're going to have a tough time with these extra books. You're going to have a tough time with any of these things, because Malachi, for many of you, is the end-all, be-all, which many of us have never really truly studied and referenced it outside of just what time it is with getting money from persons. But Malachi is the end-all, be-all to launch you into what you even know about the Messiah. Many of you haven't even read the books in between them. Well, not just Jasher. It's one of them. It's which one is the continue? I'm sorry, the continuation, where you only get so many chapters, but then if you read the one that's in the Apocrypha, you get the rest of the chapters in there too. Right, that one. Some of you already know what I'm talking about. I'm just having a moment with the name of it. Right. I'm trying to call it Esther or Ezra. Ezra. No, I'm having a moment. Anyways, it'll come to me if necessary. If Holy Spirit wants it for us, that might be something for me. But long story short, we're having an issue. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? We're having an issue with being able to try and figure out what it is. We're having an issue with trying to figure out what not only that is, but an issue with realizing that Yah's love is for us. So if you're not going to admit that this is something that Yah says, I've got to explain to you what my love is, Israel, right? I've got to explain to you what my love is. If you don't comprehend my love, Israel, then you don't comprehend who I am. Malachi is telling us who Yah is. Amen. All right, so we go here to verse 6 now for tonight. We read this already. praise Yah. Verses 6-9, if you'd like to catch up on it real quick, or if you just want to go through it with us. But if you'd like to read it on your own, please at some point do, to make sure that you're studying, to show yourself approved, that you can bring it before Elohim. And if he approves it, then you can be a workman that need not be ashamed, because you can rightly divide the word of truth. Verse 6, a son. So the Most High says, you don't accept my love. He says, you're always questioning if I love you or not. You're always questioning what I say, to the point of where I put you where you're supposed to be, where I protected you, Israel, where I have kept you away from your brother who would try to take what it belongs to you as a nation. And he says in verse 6, a son honoreth father. A son what honoreth father? A son honors his father. A son honors his Abba. A son honors his source. Right? This is the first of all commandments with a promise. The fifth commandment, right? Honor your mother and father. This is the first commandment with a promise, that if you honor your mother and father, you will have long life. All right. Well, a son honoreth his father. Watch this. And a servant his master. So if you're a son, the standard is honor your father. That means your source. Your mother as well. But Yah's talking about himself here, right? So he's saying, if you are a son, you should honor your father. You should honor your source. And if you're a servant, one should honor his master. Ephesians 6:6, right? Our theme scripture for being part of SOC, servants of Christ, right? A servant, his master. Master here meaning teacher. So if you are a servant, you should be under a teacher, right? That's a servant, right? If you go to Kung Fu, if you have a Shifu, the Shifu is the master. If you are a disciple, you're the servant. Really, you're somebody who serves. And by serving, you should be getting disciplined in what it is, so that you can master or begin to teach others behind you. If you're under a Shifu that cannot teach you, right, then he is not really a disciplined, or he's not a disciple. Or maybe he's a disciple, but he's not. A true master is one who remains disciplined and teaches you the discipline he has. If he does not have discipline, he cannot be called master, right? If he cannot show you the discipline, if he cannot go through the steps, if he cannot show you how to eventually get to where he is or where she is, then you cannot call that person master or teacher. So if we serve, we are disciplined by who we serve. This is why whoever you serve is your Lord, because you cannot have a Lord who is your master, or a Lord who is a teacher, or even a Lord who has the master bedroom, right? Master bedroom doesn't mean the slave master. It means the one who teaches and is the one who is Lord of the house. Everybody follows his example. So you cannot be a Lord and not have persons that are disciplined or disciples. You cannot be a teacher, a master, and not be able to teach. But he says, you also can't be a servant or disciplined and not have a master and not have a teacher. If somebody's going to be your teacher, you should serve that person. That's difficult for us because we've been taught not to serve. Meanwhile, though, we'll serve who we feel like serving. We'll serve the dollar. We'll serve, those who sometimes are messing up our lives. We'll serve a lot of persons, but not serve the persons who actually are teaching us or can teach us to be better. But he's talking about himself. So we can even forego all that. This is Yah talking about him. Yah is on another level. If you think that you can't learn from the Most High, then you got problems. Just being honest. So a son honoreth his source, his father, and a servant, his teacher, his master. If then I be a source, if I be your source, if I be your father, if I'm the one who has birthed you, if I'm the one who allowed you to become Israel, if I'm the one who loved you and hated Esau, if I'm the one who allowed you to have birthright and blessing, if I'm the one who gave you the name of the authority to help you from wrestling your brother Esau. This is his question then. He says, where is mine honor? If I'm your source, if I'm your dad, if I'm your father, where is my honor? If I'm your master, if I'm your teacher, if I'm showing you what to do and you're going to follow my path and you're going to live how I say live, where is my honor? This is what Yah says. To who? Who is he preaching to? Who is Malachi writing this for? Malachi chapter 1, verse 1 is the name of this. What is the name of this again? The name of this is what? The name of this scroll is called what? Is the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel. He says, I'm writing this to Israel, to Yahweh. He says, I must write this to He says, but it's a burden because it's hard for you to accept what I'm saying because you don't love me, nor do you accept me. If you don't accept me, you cannot accept my actions or my love or my word. It's burdensome. It's hard to get this through to you. If I be your father, if I be your source, if I be your master, your teacher, where is my honor? And he says, and if I be a master, watch this, where is my fear? So if I be your father, anybody who says that Yah is their source, he says, where is my honor? You should always honor your father. That's the commandment. That's the law. Those who are lawless feel like they can do whatever they want and get the blessing of a father without honoring him. You see how important it is to get this word? See, once again, watch the lawlessness, the iniquity, the achiva, the evil, the audacity, the auspicious audacity of those who are against the Most High. Thank you for the love, right? Look at this. The lawless says, my father should bless me without me honoring his law. Even though the fifth commandment out the box, what are the first four commandments? First commandment is what? Have no other Elohims before him. Second one is what? Do not have any idols before him. Third one is what? Make sure that you don't say his name in vain, right? Fourth one is make sure what? That you are not, oh, hold on, did I skip one? No, don't say his name in vain. Fourth one is, honor the Sabbath. Honor the Sabbath. We're Sabbath today, Shabbat today. If you're going by the Gregorian calendar, Shabbat today, right? And then he says what? And then the first commandment having to deal with your neighbor. Thank you all for the love again. The first commandment having to deal with your neighbor, he says, honor your mother and father. It is the first commandment with promise that if you would do this, you would live longer life. He says, if I'm your Abba, if I'm your source, if I'm your father, where is my honor? Then he says, after that, he says, and if I am your master, if I am your teacher, if you learn from me, he said, where is my fear? Where is my reverence? Why is it that you revere what other persons say who have not sown anything into you, who have not taught you anything, who do not love you, who have not separated you from Esau, who have not protected you from those who would try to take your place? How could you say I am who I am supposed to be? Because if I am your, watch this, if I am your, I know people like to say he's my Lord and master. Here he's saying I should be your father and master. I should be your parent and the one that you learn from. I'm your parent and your teacher. I'm your source and your teacher. And yet you have no honor for me and you don't revere me. Right? This is the context of the prism. This is setting up the rest of the scroll. We got to get this together. The scroll that's a burden for the prophet. The prophet is being sent here to tell us, Israel, to tell us that we have gotten out of pocket, because here we are talking about I'm Israel, I'm Israel, I'm Israel. But when I look at your life, is Yah your source and is he your teacher? Salah. When I look at your life, when I look at the manifestation of your life, when I look at the decisions you make, when I look at your prayer life, is Yah is he your source? And is he your teacher? I should be able to see some manifestation. And even if it's not the manifestation, I'm not talking about I need you to be rich. I should see that you've gone to being somebody your family is afraid to be around. And now your family can't wait to be around you. I should see that you used to cuss everybody out, but now you have kind words. I should see that you didn't study the word, but now you set aside time to study. I should see some things happening in your life. I should see for Elohim you live and for him you die. Well, if that's the case, I should see you at least do something with your life positive. Hey, how you doing, Shalom, Sister Tia? How you doing, Shalom, Sister Shima? Excuse me. That sound like Elmer Fudd. I should see some of these things. Okay, so he says, if I'm your Abba, if I'm your source, if I'm your father, where is my honor? Commandment. And he says, if I be your teacher, your master, your teacher, he says, where is my reverence? The fruit of the spirit, come on, love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, being like Elohim, faithfulness, meekness, temperance. Where are they? Then he says this, but now watch this. After he says that, he says, now we got to see, he not only is he talking to Israel, but now he's getting specific. He's starting to dress Israel down. He's starting to say, this ain't right. What's not right? What's going on? Verse 6, a son honoreth his source, right? A servant honors his teacher. If then I be your source, where is my honor? If I be your teacher, why don't you reverence me? Saith Yahweh of hosts unto you. Who is you? And you is plural. Remember, if it was to thee, that would be an individual. But he says to you, he's talking about everybody in this group. He said, it says, Yahweh of hosts says unto you, O priests. Oh no, the Levites, the leaders, the preachers. He says, O priests that what? So not all priests, but priests that what? Despise my authority, that despise my name. Oh man. How many priests despise the name of Yah? How many Sunday sermons must we hear where persons say his name doesn't even matter? He has many names. I'll call him this. How many persons must argue, right, that his name is not Yahashua, but his name is Jesus? How many persons must argue that his name can't even be Yah? His name is Lord, Lord God. Yah, it doesn't matter what you call him. If you call him God, God's not even in you would never call him. You should not worship God. You should worship Elohim. O priests that what? Despise my name. And also that means what? Despise my authority. You despise my law. If you despise the law, you're obviously against it, right? This is the word. He says, oh, the priest. I'm talking to Israel. Yes, you are out of the womb. Yes, you're not Esau by blood, but man, priest. The ones who are supposed to be keeping this together, the ones should give us hope in these times. The one, if anybody, right? I shall give you Jeremiah chapter 3. He says, Israel, you are my wife, and I'm going to send you pastors after my own heart, after my own heart, assemblers for the assembly that have the love or the passion of the Most High. And he says, oh, priests, the ones that you should, my people, my children should be able to depend on, the oldest of my children, the most faithful of my children. They despise you. Some of you despise my name. Ots, Asad, and you say, and ye say, the priests say, wherein have we despised thy name? Yah says, I'm calling you out. And you're the one that when the Lord, this is very, we have the scrolls, we have the Torah, and we have, what's the other ones that the forgive me, but, the Ashkenazi use, the Talmud, right? The Talmud they use. And we know that's a Greek text too, right? Because it's got the U sound in it. The Talmud, it's Talmudic, it's Ashkenazi, it's Greco-Roman. It's against the word of Yah. The Talmud says stuff like, hey, that priest can out-argue the Most High, and the Most High will lose debates to priests. That's what the Talmud preaches and teaches. Mm-hmm. Right, we have Talmudic priests. We have priests that I put a thing out on TikTok. I don't know how many of you saw it. I don't know if it's on Kofi _40, Kofi _42, Kofi _43. Right, I put it out on YouTube as well in the shorts, so maybe you'll see it there. Some of you seem to have reacted to it already. But I put a thing out there to show persons there's a preacher. She might be a prophetess. She might be a pastor, bishop, apostle. I don't know what her position is, but there's this preacher and she's walking on stage and she starts telling everybody, I need to tell all the preachers that in this season, God is not speaking through any any series. She said he doesn't need a series, he needs a shift. And what she said is, and I would have kind of received that if it was like, okay, I get, but she said any preacher that's preaching a series, Yah's not with you. Now, somebody might say, maybe you feel a certain way because you just finished a really long series. But what I was thinking to myself is, what does this have to do with the word? Matter of fact, yeah, it does that as well, Brother Dwayne. Right. But I was just sitting there like, if somebody reads Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, is that not a series? If somebody were to read First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, is that not a series? First Kings and Second Kings, is that not a series of events? Is that not a series of teaching? If somebody were to read Psalms, is that not a series of poems and songs and word that's positive and necessary? If somebody were to read Proverbs, is that not a series of Proverbs? put together over time based off of what Solomon's father taught him. Right? But this sister in her mind, right, is telling everybody that if somebody preaches a series, y'all can't be in it because it doesn't cause a shift. Meanwhile, she probably quote Psalm 23. That's part of a series, you know, like, but I'm not trying to say it needs to all be about series. I'm just saying somebody will say something and we don't catch how crazy that is, right? That wait a minute, you're gonna read Genesis, and Genesis, you said shit. Okay, I'm gonna look for it later. Like, Genesis is a series about a family. Right? So I heard it and I was like, yeah, this is wow. This is crazy. This is why you got to know the word for yourself. And you can't just allow somebody to come up and be like, well, my gift, because some person try to act like their gift supersedes what the Most High says. This is why it's a burden to preach the truth nowadays. Oh no. This is why it's a burden to preach the truth nowadays. This is why it's a burden, because cats are more concerned about making sure they know how it feels. That's right. Study to show thyself approved and bring it before Elohim. He's the one who's supposed to approve it. Study to show thyself, and then make sure you show thyself approved by making sure that what you've shown yourself and what you studied, it matches what Yah says. Try every spirit to see if it is of Elohim, or as we say affectionately, try the spirit by the spirit. Right? Okay. So he says, it's you, priest, that despise what I've authorized. You despise my name. And ye say, wherein have we despised your name? So you're going to catch this over and over again in Malachi. We already saw this last night, right? He says, I love you, Israel. But Israel says, how do you love us? He says, I've loved you and I despised Esau. But you still said that that's not enough to show us how you actually did it. Tonight, in verse 6, he's saying, look, you guys are supposed to honor me as your father, but I don't have honor. You're supposed to revere me as your teacher, but I don't have any reverence. And he says, you priest, you despise what I authorized. You despise my name. And then when I tell you that you despise my name, you still don't respect me enough as your father to not talk back, but you say, how have I despised you? Later on, when we get to chapter 3, that's a little ways down the road. When we get to chapter 3, and it says, and Yah will say to us, his children, right? You have robbed me. They'll say, can a man rob Yah? He said, but you have robbed me. You say, is it possible to rob Elohim? He says, you have robbed me with your tithes and offering. And how much teaching now goes on to where everybody trying to tell you why you shouldn't give offerings and you shouldn't give tithes. Right? Once again, you got to do that for yourself. I don't beat people up about that, but you got to do that for yourself and trust Yah for yourself with your time, talent, effort, energy. Yes, Abraham, when he tithed everything. When he gave tribute of everything. It wasn't just money only, but it didn't exclude it. Right? He also tithed his food. If you saying I'm not going to give money, okay, fine, give somebody something to eat on the street. You can't do that. Can you tithe some gas? Can you make sure that somebody who's in the kingdom, right? Because it's supposed to be given to the kingdom. I'm not saying don't help somebody else, but can you help somebody in the kingdom get from point A to point B every once in a while? Something, right? The tribute is a lifestyle. It's not just only when you feel like it. But that being said, we'll get there. But you see, you'll see this over and over again. Yah will say something, and the disrespectful children, we will then come behind that and say, well, how is that possible? Right? I'm going to tell you right now, look, love me some Solomon. And Solomon is a great boy. He turned into a great man, right? And he doesn't do this. But I'm telling you right now, I'm just going to go ahead, and I've told him this because he got in a little, especially as boys, we grow up and we start feeling ourselves a little bit. Every once in a while, I'll say, Solomon, this is da-da-da. And he might ask, and it's okay too. He asks why and stuff. But sometimes, there's a difference between why, Dad, and sometimes why, right? And when he hits me with the why, it's very rare. But when he hits me, I have to immediately, something rises up, right? Inside of something rises up on the inside, right? And I don't lay hands, but I make it a point to tell him, don't ever do that again. Right? I don't care if I'm 75. Don't ever, I don't care if I'm 105, I'm 145. Don't ever in your life ever what? Not revere your teacher, and don't ever get to a point to where you think it's okay to not honor your source. Right? Honor your mother and your father. If I hear the with your mother, I better not hear it either. Right? Right? So we disrespectful children. Yah says you have dishonored me, and we quickly go, how we dishonor you. That's how you can tell a child is out of control. Out of his love, he ain't wipe you up with that flood. He said, I'm not going. He said we went through that in about a shot. And we went over that last year. We went over the Rainbow Series, right? For VBS. Don't forget that Yah made the covenant not because he felt bad and blah, 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 blah. No. He made a covenant because he said, I understand that you guys are wicked and you're going to mess up again. You're going to be disobedient children again. And so if the punishment remains the same, that every time y'all mess up, I'm going to cause a flood, y'all ain't going to make it. So he said, I'm going to give you a token of this covenant I'm making with you that you'll be fruitful, multiply, replenish, and subdue again. And every time that you see shot out of Anavan, the bow in the cloud, the so-called rainbow, when you see it, it'll be a reminder that, yeah, you should be wiped out. And I'm not going to remember all the colors, right? But because of the red, because of the passion that I have for you, and the yellow, the joy that I allowed myself to be able to see. And what is it? The red, and then the orange, which is the nature of always looking at things positively, right? And then the yellow is the joy, and then the green is the seat of who the Most High is, right? His love, and then because that causes him to see the blue, the peace, the Shalom, and therefore through the peace he's able to see what was that the indigo, which is seeing where we are as far as in the community and in the area of life we're supposed to be, that causes him to see the purple, right? Or the violet, the royalty that we wear, right? That's a sign in the heavens to say, all right, like I'm letting you know you could be gone, right? You could be out of here, but right, he letting you know. But as a father, he says, okay, I could just take you out, but I made a covenant and I'm gonna let you know. So every time you see that, don't only just be excited and say it's pretty. Remember that that's me keeping my promise on my end, and ultimately I will come back through the air, right? Just so, like there's a cloud or a rainbow in the cloud, Yehoshua is going to come back on the cloud. How you doing, Sister Audrey? We're going, right? He says, I'm coming back, and thank y'all for the love. Thank you for the love, babe. He says, I'm gonna come back now. I'm gonna send my son back, and he's gonna be fulfilling the covenant that I make with a particular family, right? He says, so don't get it twisted. I need you to see that I could have taken you out, and I could take you out, but I made covenant. And I said, I'm not allowing the rainbow just to be pretty. It's a reminder to you as well that, hey, you could be gone, but I'm giving you a chance to get it together, because when you see it's not the bow in the cloud, but you will see it's the one who carries the arrows, it's going to be too late then. So you're going to get a steady reminder of my love, right, towards you. Okay, so he's telling us straight up. This is the thing in Malachi over and over again. We done smelled ourselves too much. We don't think we need him like that. We're going ahead and messing around with Esau. We're not speaking against the mountain, like he says in Ezekiel 35. And he coming right out of here, and he's saying right out the gate and saying, hey, stop playing with my name. Stop playing with my authority. Stop playing with who I am as your father, right? Stop playing with me. Especially you priests. You priests are setting a bad precedent. Verse 7. Ye offer polluted bread upon mine altar, right? It's important that we catch this. You put polluted bread. You know there's a such thing as grain offering and stuff. There's times to where persons put bread on the altar. We would have given offerings with bread, right? Maybe some of you even know that's actually where the term double portion comes from. A double portion was something that we gave on harvest day, something that we even do. We actually do it at SOC a lot, where you were supposed to make 10 loaves of bread. And you would have 2 of the loaves of bread that would be set aside for the priest, right? The priests were supposed to preach the word, right? So the priest would take the 2 loaves of bread, and they go ahead and they give a prayer. And persons would give at that season, harvest time, they would give a double portion. The priest normally can only live off a percentage at a time, but they give a double portion, especially to those that are the high priest and those who are doing business at a higher level than the other priests. Those priests have a lot to do. They have a lot of travel. They have a lot of things to do. And so they would get a double portion just for that season, not all year long, Like some pastors be preaching or saying, yeah, the Holy Spirit told me this is a double portion blessing. Where's the $200 line? The $500? No. This is during a particular season, right, where we would go ahead and trusting that Yah will be able to provide, we give more during the season to Yah, and we give a double portion to those who serve. So when Elijah's getting ready to go and be translated, and Elisha walks with them the whole way and keeps saying, can I have a double portion? He's not saying, give me twice as much as what you have. What he's actually saying is, hey, may I have this position? You had me, remember, as your understudy. I've been your disciple. I was sitting there, my voice is going, excuse me. I was sitting there doing stuff for my family. As I was doing stuff for my family, you came and you put this mantle on me, and I received it because you're the prophet. And if you say that's what I'm supposed to be, then I did exactly what you said. I've been faithful and all this stuff. Hey, when you leave, is it all right that this position you've been training me for, may I have your word that you can give it? And he keeps saying, it's not for me to give. It's not for me to give. It's for the Most High. He gets translated up. Elisha sees his staff. He picks up his staff. And what happens? He can do everything that Elijah can do. In other words, he now is the person that receives the double portion. That's why you have to have culture in mind. Right? That's why you got to have this culture in mind. You have to be correct culturally. So here we are, where he says, you have polluted the bread. There's times when you bring bread to the altar. This would be literal bread, not just your money. We talk about literal bread. You would bring bread and you would put it before the altar, right? You would bring lachim, which is where you get a bait, lachim, Bethlehem. Lachim actually means bread, and right, and bet is the family. So it's really the family of bread or the house of bread. Remember, bet can mean family, it can mean house, it can mean son. So where the family lives, right, is the city. So the bet can even be the city, but bet lachim or Bethlehem, as many of you say, right? But ba'it lachim or bet lachim or Bethlehem, it means the city of bread. So lachim, right, means bread. Lachim means bread. But then if it's polluted bread, lachim gaal or lachim gaval even, right? Lachim gaal or lachim gaval. Lachim gaval, it means that it has been defiled or desecrated. In other words, this bread is rotting, or this bread has had some things happen to it. And anything you bring to the altar, no matter if it's bread, if it's a sheep, if it's a lamb, if it's a goat, if it's turtle doves, right? If it's grain, whatever, you're not supposed to bring anything to the Most High that is unclean. For if it is unclean, it is unlawful. Correct? All right. So you had the priest allowing the people, or just they themselves trying to keep double portion and stuff for themselves to keep the best bread. They would give the bread that was polluted so that they could say, Yah, we gave you something. Right? Disrespectful. If I'm your Abba, if I'm your source, if I'm your father, he says, where's my honor? And if I'm your teacher, if I'm your master, where is my reverence? You give me moldy bread? You give me bread that you messed up? You give me bread that it's okay? Matter of fact, look, let's keep on reading this. Or Malachi chapter 1, if you're just coming on with us, we're in verse 7 now. He says, ye offer polluted bread upon mine altar, and ye say, not I say, ye say, when you do this, you say, wherein have we polluted thee? Right? Y'all saying, the bread you're giving me, I created the grain. I know what bread is. I'm the one that rained manna. What is it? I rained that bread down from heaven. I know what bread is. I know what clean bread looks like. I know what righteous bread is. Not only did I create what made your bread, I made bread fall from heaven, bread that you can't even create, bread that if you try to take too much of it, it would get moldy and stuff. Right? I know what bread is. And here it is that you trying to slip this wild bread on the altar. And when I call you out on it, you priest are out here telling persons, where did we pollute? Right? Now look at it like this. Yahweh is the bread of life. How many persons have polluted? I'm sorry, Yahashua, excuse me, is the bread of life, right? How many persons have polluted Lachim? He comes from us. We are what? We are the family where the bread came out of. He was born out of us, out of our people. He was born out of Ba'at Lachem. How many people have messed with our family, our house, our Ba'at, our bits? And how many persons have polluted the bread and they serve it as Jesus? They serve it as something that can be mixed with iron and clay. They serve it as lawlessness and foolishness. How many priests serve that up? Saturday coming tomorrow, how many Seventh-day Adventists are going to serve that up? How many so-called Israelites are going to serve that up? It's going to be Sunday, a couple days. How many persons are going to serve up moldy word, disgusting word that's not worthy of the Father, word that didn't come from his mouth, and they're going to try to put it on these whack versions of altars, these altars that have been altered, and put an altered word on there. And then when somebody calls it out, they're going to say, how would you blame us for this? We didn't do this. Or if you finally, somebody pulls all these teachings that you've been saying, like the Creflo Dollar, teaching foolishness all these years about tithe and offering and stuff like that. And then finally goes back on all the teaching he says, I was wrong about everything, but then still teaches wrong after that. He used your tithes and offering to get his plane, but then he says, oh yeah, I was wrong. And when somebody says, well, Creflo, you were the one who taught this. He says, well, I mean, you can't blame me. I made a mistake. I'm just going to teach the truth now. You're still not teaching the truth, bro. And you're not going to take back years of harmful teaching. Creflo, you used to teach persons that if they didn't tithe, they should be taken outside and they should be shot. That's what you taught, bro. You was changing the world as world changes by telling persons that persons should shoot persons. No refund and no repentance for sure, right? You were telling a person you're going to take them outside and shoot them. You said, if you had your way, you said person should be, I'm a quote, so I'm not saying using this term. I'm just saying what he said. He taught that you should be happy that he's not your God, because he said if he was your God, he would take you out. He would, if anybody tithed, you would, you would have like a like the slip that you used to put back in the day, like the Flintstones, you know, you put in there. Some of y'all know about that. And you take that slip and you put it in the machine. And he said, when you put it in the machine, right, people would know whether you tithe or not. And if you tithe, this wonderful, pretty, I'm quoting him. You can look for this sermon yourself. Maybe one day we'll do this at a watch party. Maybe we'll do a special watch party and we'll watch this one day, right? He literally said, hey, I would have it to where you put this in the slot. And when you put this in the slot, all of a sudden there'll be this wonderful music. It'll come out and it'll be, you are welcome here, all this stuff. But he said, but if you don't tithe, he said, this is what he said. He said, I would have it to where when you put your slip in, that you would hear demonic sounds and fire and all this. And it would say, you are evil and you are denied. And they would bring you outside. And he said they would give everybody what equated the way he was explaining. It sounded like he was talking about everybody would have Tommy guns or some type of machine gun. And he said that they would have the person out there and they would spray them down in the parking lot. Those of you who've been to World Changes, you know what the parking lot looks like, and you know the entryway in there and all that stuff. They said they would take you right out of those doors, right into that parking lot where they have everybody guiding you around and stuff like that. And they would have you stay there, and everybody would come outside and shoot you. That's what he taught. That's what Pastor Dollar taught. And I'm not even here to tell you he changed his name and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't care. But that's what he taught. That's what him and Taffy stood for. How you doing, Mello? Thanks for being part of the community, at least on this part. I know you're around. Right? How you doing, brother Kenyatta? Oh, how about Agani? Right? That's what he taught. That's what he taught. Are you going to unteach the years that you taught that and drill that into the head of your congregation? Are you going to repent for that? Persons called him out on that, and he would go on interviews and deny persons that he even taught it, or when he finally started to admit, he would say, well, I said it, but it was only in jest. But we have a whole bunch of other times where he said similar things. So we got to be on point, brothers and sisters. Thank y'all for the love. We got to be on point. We got to call this stuff out. Y'all keep saying that's wrong, but we allow the priests to get up in front of our people or to say that they are our people when they are not, just because they're born. Creflo can be Israel as much as you want to talk about him being Negro. That's a Negro if I ever seen a Negro, but he don't live like we supposed to live. And if he's doing that and he'll off our people, we got to call him out. It's just as bad as when I talk about that we'll have the drug dealer out here and we can't wait to go ahead and lift it up and be like, man, you know what? One of the reasons I love listening to hip hop, because some of these cats are real and they on the street and they still killing and they doing the trap and they doing the trap music and they doing the drill music and they doing that. No, if they're doing those things, they're killing our people, and we need to go ahead and call them out for it. If we'll call Drake out and say that he's bad for doing stuff and changing the culture, right? Then we need to call Kendrick out when he puts on a Christ type crown and says he is the Elohim of rap. It's dangerous either way. I'm not saying we can't study it. I'm not saying that you can't listen to it. I'm not saying you can't find out what they're saying, because your children know what it's saying anyways. But I'm telling you, we're not going to say, oh, it's okay to overlook something. If you're doing wrong, it's wrong. If it's not the word, it's not the word. Right? If I don't care how many planes you got. I don't care how well you can sing. I don't care how many dresses you have in your closet. I don't care how many shoes you got on your feet. I don't care how many lapels you can wear. I don't care how many followers you have on social media. If it's not the word, it's not the word. See, that's the prism. All of Malachi, we went over this yesterday, in verses 1-5. The prism is you have to look at this and separate Israel from Esau. And if you don't separate from Esau, this is not for you. That's right. Call it down the middle. If you a ref, call it down the middle. That's all I ask of the referee. If I'm getting whooped, right? If Minister Morel is out there and I'm out there and we play football and we line up and we got to smash into each other, right? Call it down the line. If Minister Morel, right? Minister Morel, he's strong. If he run over me every time he get the ball and he behind center, right? He the halfback behind the quarterback and I'm the middle linebacker. He keep running me over. Hey, it is what it is, right? But if somebody hold me before I get to him and he keep hitting me, hey, somebody call that. Right? If I lose, I lose. But at least make sure you call it down the line or call it down the middle, so to speak, right? I'm not saying anything. I'm a big boy. All right, but it's real. I'm big. I wasn't trying to say that. I'm saying you're strong, right? Okay, so yeah, call it down the middle. That's my big brother. All right, you can't talk about him. Yeah, right? Call it down the middle, right? So be righteous. Tell the truth. And if you mess up, I've messed up before. Guess what? If I mess up, guess what you get out of me? I'm sorry. Or if I was teaching something 15, 20 years ago and I realize that it's wrong, or if I start doing something because I think that I got something on the word, and then all of a sudden I look and I'm like, oh, I got that wrong. I was setting a bad example. I got to come in front of you and admit, yeah, and then make a change and then try to make changes. Because if I've been teaching it wrong for years, guess what? Then I got years to make up for it. The best that I can. I'm not saying hold it over my head or we should hold it over his. What I'm saying though is that if you're gonna pretend like you ain't do all that damage and then still aren't doing damage, what we doing? Why are we playing? Why are we playing with this? If Holy Spirit wasn't leading you correctly then and you still teaching something that's wrong, is she leading you now? No. It's the priest. We bring this moldy bread, we bring this stuff and we feed, and then watch this. This is how far he goes. Back to Malachi 1:7. It says, ye offer polluted bread upon my altar, and ye say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that ye say the table of Jehovah is contemptible. You'll say that the table is contemptible. I don't even want to touch the table. Wow, really? You're the one that's making it contemptible. But verse 8, it says, and if ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? In other words, if you were given sheep and they can't see, that's an unclean animal. If you were given a she-ass and she can't see, that's an unclean animal. If you were giving lambs and they can't see, that's unforgivable, right? Or I won't say unforgivable, but that's a sacrifice. That's an evil sacrifice. And if ye offer the lame and sick, because you're supposed to make sure the animals are clean, right? So if you're giving animals that aren't righteous, if you're giving things to Yah that are not righteous, is that not achival? Is that not iniquity? Is that not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Watch it. Now he really gets you. He says, okay, give it to the person that's in charge of your region, right? He says, if you think that what you give to Yah is acceptable, I don't know who your governor is. If you're in the city of DC, you got Mayor Bowser. He said, get it to Mayor Bowser right now in D.C. What you'll give to Yah, give it to Mayor Bowser and see if she'll take it. Whoever your governor is of your state. If you want to know if it's worthy of Yah, remember, they asked Yehoshaphat. We talked about this earlier today, right? Who should we give to? This is Rome versus Israel. Who should we give to? Yah or Caesar? Yehoshaphat's response is, give what is Caesar's his, but never be in a position where you don't give Elohim what's his. He comes first. So if you wouldn't give it to your governor, if you wouldn't give it to Caesar, why would you try and give it to Yah? Some of you wouldn't give what you try to give to Yah. You wouldn't give it to your child. You wouldn't give it to your husband. You wouldn't give it to your wife. You wouldn't give it to your mama, your daddy. You wouldn't give it to your friend. But you'll give it to Yah. And then say, how is this contemptible? How is it that I messed up? Don't put that on me. Don't bring that before me. Don't act like I'm doing wrong. I'm not doing nothing wrong. Really? You lay this evil stuff on the altar. He said, give it to your governor. Will he be pleased with thee or accept thy person? Right? Because if you give that to your governor, the governor thinks you're a bad person. If you're required by law to give something to the state and you won't give to the state what's necessary, they'll lock you up. But he said, you want to give foolishness and wickedness to Yah, act like you ain't supposed to deal with Shalom. I'll leave that there, right? So he said, will the governor not be pleased with, will he be pleased with thee or accept that person? Saith Yahweh of hosts. Yahweh's asking this. And now I pray you, beseech Elohim, that he will be gracious unto us. This hath been by your means, right? Means. Will he regard your person? Saith Yahweh of hosts. Now, this is verse 9, last verse for the night. Here's what he's saying here. He's saying, this is what you say. You say, I pray you, beseech Elohim. He says, you go to the people, priests. You go to the people. You go to the nation and say, pray to Yah that he'll be gracious unto us Levites, unto us priests. Right? This has been by your means. You bringing this on yourself. You got the people believing that your wickedness is something that Yah should deal with and lift up. To the point to where you're so tapped into wickedness in Esau that if Israel stands up and tells you you have broken the law, you'll fight Israel, you'll fight Yah before you'll fight Esau. Matter of fact, you'll become just as wicked as Esau. Some of you are Esau and don't even realize you're Esau in Israelite clothing, or sheep and wolves clothing, or wolves and sheep's clothing, excuse me. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. Right? I'm just trying to say we got to do better with this. And he calls out the priest here. Right? Calls out the priests. Some of your Bibles, verses 6 through 9, I think, or well, what we read, verses 6 to the end of it, but it actually has in bold italics, talks about the sins of the priest, how the priest missed the mark, how the priest won't be honest, how the priest won't show the love of Yah towards his people. I see you, Brother TJ. I'm sorry, I just saw what you said. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right. So we'll leave that there for tonight. Thank you all. I will see you guys tomorrow, live session, 8 a.m. New York time. We'll see you guys for Shabbat, or for the podcast, for Shabbat school, for SOC community meeting / watch party, for meeting over with those in England, and for the women's meeting. Prayerfully, we'll see you for a lot of those or some of those, etc. Love y'all to life. You all take care. Let's continue to do great things. Hopefully, this is part 2 of this series so far. We won't have the next one until Monday evening, and we'll have some other things on the schedule. I know children are starting to get ready to go to school, for those children that do go to school, so we're praying for you. We were actually in a position to bless some of them with school supplies and things like that, so we thank you all. We appreciate you. Thank you, family. We appreciate you guys so much. What is it that it's, how do we say this? La'ayala Tav, right? Bakwata Tav is basically like grand rising for us, right? So La'ayala Tav, As that's just basically saying that, la'ayala, la'ayala, no, la'aya, sorry, la'aya. I'm saying it wrong. I'm trying to get it together. No, I have it right. La'ayala, la'ayala tav. La'ayala tav. There's a lot of characters in there. But we hope that you have a great evening. I got to start making sure I say that properly. And Avda, la'ayala tav, la'ayala tav. We hope you have a great evening. Thank you again for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Shabbat shalom to you. And or Vayashan Shalom to you, and also it'll be double Vayashan Shalom for us if you're going by the Hebrew calendar, because once again, tomorrow evening will be the first day of the new month. So happy new moon to you, so to speak. Chalash Chadash Alava. And we hope that you guys have a great day. So thank you again for being on. We appreciate you. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, Yana Bahama. And remember, as always, family, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom, Vayashan Shalom, Shalom, At Achaba Yachadashal At Achaba At Yachaba. All right, shalom, family. Peace.